Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mensch. I have never lived in Ubuntu, but the other day I downloaded it and made a virtual machine of it and took it for a spin. So let's get to it. So what I did was I went to the Ubuntu webpage and I maneuvered around on different parts of the webpage. I'm not going to do that now. And I kind of felt that it was hard to find things. And to me, it felt like things were a bit disorganized. And I ended up on this page and I ended up going here and then I'm downloading this one. And I was just trying to take a look at it, but it automatically started downloading without me even realizing it. Because honestly, I was looking for more flavors because I know Ubuntu has different ISOs and different flavors. I know they have a cinnamon one and many other ones. And I was trying to find that page and I couldn't find it. Now, after I downloaded the ISO and I did my installation, the next day I was scooting around on the web page and I found it. I found where the other flavors are, and actually you can see them right here. Ubuntu flavors. So there's a mate, budgie. Anyways, I ended up there's more flavors than these. But anyways, I just ended up downloading this one, even without clicking the download button. So I downloaded it. Let's close the web browser. So you can see on this page, my Ubuntu, which would be this one. That's the Ubuntu ISO. It's 4.6 gig. Almost as much as my Windows. So you can see here, Windows 10 is 5.5 gig. And Windows 11 is 5.2 gig. So the Ubuntu is 4.6 gig just for the ISO. Now in comparison, this is MX Linux. The MX Linux ISO is only 1.8 gig. Now let's go to my Linux Mint. My Linux Mint ISO is 2.5 gig. My Linux Mint Debian is 2 gig. Now my Debian ISO is only 382 megs, but that's a net install. And my April Arch Linux ISO is 810 megs. And I guess you could say that's a net install as well. So I kind of thought the ISO was huge. It was very large. 4.6. It's the next out of all the ISOs I've downloaded, and I've downloaded other ISOs too, but I don't have them on my drive right now, so I can't show you how big or small they were. But I thought it's pretty large. It's right up there with Windows. So anyways, that was one thing that I kind of thought, not good. Why is it so large? Anyways, let's go out of there. Let's go back to my VMs and I'm going to fire it up. There it is there, Ubuntu. Let's fire it up. Let's start it. Let's log in. Let's make that full screen. Let's see how long it takes us to boot up. Shouldn't take too long, or at least it didn't when I was testing it before I turned on the video. And there it goes, Ubuntu. It seems to be taking a long time. It's funny how that works. When you're not doing it on video, it goes fast. When you're doing it on video, it doesn't seem to work. Okay, there we are. So I guess it wasn't too bad. It was a bit long though, a lot longer than booting into Arch on a VM. So anyways, let's click it on. Let's put my password in. And let's go. Let's see how long it takes to get to the desktop. So this is the generic, if you want to call it that, or default. Let's call it default. This is the default Ubuntu desktop. It's GNOME, and I'm not a great fan of GNOME, but on first view, I can't stand the wallpaper. Now, I guess you can't really put down or heavily criticize a distribution for the wallpaper because they have other wallpapers there, so you can change the background. Boy, the system's slow. Whew. So they have other wallpapers here. This one here reminds, oops, where did that go? This one down here, that reminds me of Windows. Let's just turn that on. So that's how you change it. Yeah, it's kind of like a Windows XP type of wallpaper, eh? So anyways, your bar is on the side. It's pretty wide, so it's taking up a lot of real estate. And your clock is up here, and you have some options here for volume. This one can power off or log out. You can lock it, take you directly to settings. Of course, your clock. Now, we just opened it up. Now, HTOP wasn't installed by default, so I installed it, and I installed it from the terminal. Let's just call up HTOP. See what's happening in here. So right on boot, we haven't opened up any programs yet. We're already using a gig of RAM. Can you believe that? A gig of RAM. We haven't even opened up anything yet, except for this HTOP. And like I said, HTOP wasn't installed, and that's really odd, because usually HTOP is installed with most distributions by default. But anyways, wasn't hard to install it, so let's close that. And another thing that's funny is Xterm wasn't installed. So if we go here, if I can find Xterm, I installed this myself. And that's Xterm. Anyways, I was able to make it a little larger. That wasn't installed. Let's type in top. Oh, we went down a little bit down below. Oh, we're back up to a gig. Anyways, let's close that. And let's go back to the terminal. So here's the terminal, would be GNOME terminal. And I did make this larger, and I changed the color of the font. So that's not default. And let's type in NeoFetch. And another thing, NeoFetch wasn't installed. I had to install this myself. Wasn't hard. So when I was installing Ubuntu, it was pretty easy to install as far as answering the questions and clicking on the things to click on. That was pretty fast and easy. And there was an option. If you click this on, it's going to do updates while installation is happening, so you don't have to update it after the fact. So I clicked it on, but it didn't work. So after I finished my install, I had to do updates, and the updates took longer than the install. The updates took, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to do the updates. Seemed like a long time. So I don't know why that didn't work. I'm pretty sure I clicked it on. But anyways, maybe it was my fault. I don't know. So let's open up some programs. First, we'll go with Firefox. There it is. Let's try opening up our spreadsheet program, LibreOffice Spreadsheet. Well, it's not bad. Not too slow. Let's open up LibreOffice Writer. Oops, hit the wrong one. Well, let's open up Writer there. There it is. Let's close it. Let's open up HTOP. So we're just slightly over a gig. So this machine, I gave it 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, and a 40 gig hard drive. So we're using just a gig with nothing opened, even though we opened some programs and shut them. Now this is the software center. Let's go there. So this is the software. You click that to see if there's updates. There's some programs down here. Let's do a search. Let's do a search for Qtile. Qtile Window Manager. No applications found. Let's go do a search for Awesome Window Manager. So Awesome doesn't come up, but I installed Awesome in here. Awesome, I went into the terminal and I installed Awesome Window Manager. But I wasn't able to install Qtile because Qtile is not part of Debian or Ubuntu. But anyways, I mentioned that because I know Awesome is installed because I installed it in the terminal, but it doesn't even show up here that it's installed. Now, it brings up all this other stuff. Well, if I'm doing a search for Awesome, why would the Software Center bring up all these other apps? I'm looking for Awesome Window Manager. I'm not looking for all this stuff. No, there is an Awesome there. I don't know what that is. Awesome Database. Hello. I don't know what that is. It's just something that happens to be awesome. So, I don't know. So I type in awesome and it brings up these. Anyways, here's another thing. Let's type up htop. Htop. Oops. Yeah. I spelled it wrong. I guess it would help if I spelled it right. So they have 2 htops. So it's showing this one's installed and this one's not. Now, what's the difference? Oh, it's saying, so this one's installed and it's saying it's potentially unsafe, provided by a third party. Well, I installed it in the terminal. I went into the terminal and I typed in sudo apt install htop. And I got that from the Debian repo. Well, apparently this one's unsafe. So what's the other one? The other one is they're saying you should install it. And this one is safe. How come this one's safe and the other one's not? Let's see what this says. Ah, this one is a snap. So this one is a snap. It's the official snap from Canonical. And Canonical is the group that runs Ubuntu. And Canonical is the group that developed and maintained Snap. Oh, it's official Snap. So this one's safe. But the one that I downloaded in the terminal that's available in the software center and also available in the terminal, it's not safe. Anyways, okay. So I'm going to go out of there. Now, another thing is with this bar, if you don't like it there, you can put it to the bottom. So let's go to here. Let's go to settings. So we have appearance. And you can make stuff dark theme or light theme. That's light theme. Ooh, that's light. And that's dark theme. Let's make that full screen. Let's bring this down. And so this is for the dock. Position on screen default is left. I can't stand stuff on the left, so let's bring it to the bottom. And let's turn that off because that was off by default. So let's close that. So now it's on the bottom. It's pretty wide-oy. That brings up that. And of course, having it at the bottom here is no good, because when I have a dock on the bottom, I always think that this is the start menu. And when I was playing with it before, I kept clicking on Firefox, thinking I'm hitting the start menu. But anyways, let's put it back to the side. Let's go here. Let's go settings. It's an appearance. Let's go position left. And there's another thing you can do. This was off by default, but you could turn it on and it auto hides the dock. So for instance, it doesn't auto hide it like when you move your mouse, but if you open up Firefox, it's going to hide it. So you have more screen real estate. I guess that's not bad. And another thing you can do is if you don't want it to be so wide, because it is taking up a lot of screen real estate, you can go back to settings. And into appearance. And you can change this. Move this bar down. And let's save it. There we go. How's that? That's a little better, eh? It's not so giant. This is GNOME Desktop, and the thing is GNOME Desktop, even though there's settings and you can change things, it's very little. You can make it light theme or dark theme. You can move the bar, but there's very little to change. And I'm not the only one who thinks that way. Many people who do videos about GNOME say that GNOME is the least configurable desktop environment in the Linux world. And if you like GNOME, that's good, I guess. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to log out, and I installed Awesome Window Manager. So let's log out. Oops. Log out. So we're logging out of GNOME and into Awesome Window Manager. So what I installed in this system is Awesome Window Manager, HTOP, Xterm, and NeoFetch. I don't think I installed anything else. Anyways, let's click on that. It brings up this little wheel here. So if you click on this little wheel, and there is Awesome. Let's click it on. Oh, I gotta put my password in. And we are in default Awesome. Now this is the default Awesome that comes with Debian. So the menu is more full than it would be when it comes with Arch. And Arch, Linux, the default Awesome Window Manager, this menu is there, but it's very bare. There's hardly anything in it. But if you install Awesome Window Manager in Linux Mint, it's going to have the exact same menu. Everything's going to be in there. Linux Mint or Debian. You can install Awesome Window Manager and the menu will be set up the same way. The configuration file is the same. So you don't have to configure it yourself. And what I want to do is hold down the mod key and hit P. Let's hit HTOP. And there's HTOP. So we're using less than a gig, which is good. But we're using 557 megs of RAM, and that's a lot for Awesome. For Awesome Window Manager, it should be around 250, 300 at the most. So 557 megs of RAM for Awesome is kind of high. But hey, this is Ubuntu. It's going to be higher than Arch. But at least it's less than the GNOME desktop. Let's see if anything opens. Let's open up Firefox. Here's Firefox. Let's close it. Let's open up a terminal. Let's change xrandr S 1360 by 1080. Oops, now I want to do by 768. There we go. Let's close it. That's better. Now let's refresh the screen. Let's go to Firefox again. Whoops, I did my fast key. I don't have my fast keys in here. There's Firefox. Let's go into Office. Let's do the spreadsheet. And there's the spreadsheet. Let's just go to there. Let's go to Options. Let's see if they have all the fonts available in here. Breeze Dark, they do. Let's apply it. That's okay. Oh, that's better. Let's close it. Let's go into HTOP again. 588 megs of RAM. 589 megs of RAM. Let's close the terminal. Let's log out. I just want to see what Xterm looks like in here. And there's Xterm, default Xterm. Let's do an HTOP in here. 581 megs of RAM. So that's kind of high for Awesome Window Manager, but it's not as high as GNOME. Let's quit out of there. Let's close that. Let's quit out of Awesome. Quit. Let's click on this wheel. Now I'm not sure which Ubuntu to go into. Let's go into this one. Type in my password. Now, what I'm going to do is I forgot that I did this. Let's log out. I forgot that I installed Cinnamon in here as well. So what I did was I went into the terminal and installed Cinnamon, and it's right here. Click it on, and what it installed was the default Debian Cinnamon, which is ugly. And you can make it look nice, and it's easy to configure, and you can make it look nice just with your mouse. And I did a video on this way back when. I did a video on configuring Cinnamon in the Debian distribution. That is, I have a video way back when about Debian. And I showed how to install the Cinnamon desktop on Debian and how to make it look nice. And it's easy. You just do it with your mouse. And you can make the Awesome Window Manager in Debian or Ubuntu, you can make it look exactly the same as it does in Linux Mint or in Arch Linux or Manjaro. It's all the same. Cinnamon is Cinnamon. The one that comes from Debian by default, all the settings are turned off and it's kind of ugly. So I'm not going to configure this here. You can watch my video about it. Let's hit Ubuntu. Let's put my password. Now the thing is, if you download the actual Ubuntu Cinnamon ISO, then when you log into Cinnamon, it won't look like that. It's going to be configured, I presume, nicely. It's going to look nice. It's going to be configured the way the Ubuntu team decided to configure it. So I'm sure it will look nice, a lot nicer than that. But that's easy to make look nice. Now I've just logged into a base install of Arch Linux. And I'm going to do top. Look at this. In this base install of Arch Linux, I gave it 4 processors, 4 gigs of RAM, and a 40 gig hard drive. And it's running at 93 megs of RAM. Can you believe that? 93 megs of RAM. Let's go into Qtile. Let's go into a terminal. Let's type in htop. So now we're in a base system of Arch Linux in Qtile. And out of my 4 gigs of RAM, it's only using 140 megabytes. 140 megabytes of RAM. Gotta love Arch. Let's spawn Firefox. Firefox. And there's Firefox. Let's close it. Let's type in htop. Oh, now we open Firefox and we're only at 151 megs of RAM. Oh, 157 megs of RAM. Gotta love Arch Linux. So that was a quick look at Ubuntu. Sorry if the tone of my voice, if I don't seem too excited or positive about it. I think, to me, I'm not a great fan of Ubuntu, even though I know they did some wonderful things for the Linux community in the past 15 years or 10 to 15 years. I'm not a great fan of them. And even Linux Mint that's based on Ubuntu. So Linux Mint, their flagship distribution, is based on Ubuntu. They disable Snap. Now, Snap is the main part of Ubuntu. They're based on Ubuntu, but they disable apps from coming from the Snap store. So really, I would hope that Linux Mint would make their Cinnamon desktop based on Debian their flagship, rather than the one based on Ubuntu. Because even they disable stuff from the Ubuntu store. I'm just saying. So for me, I got to give Ubuntu maybe a 5 out of 10, maybe even a 4 out of 10. To me, Ubuntu is the Windows of the Linux world. It's a big, bloated distribution. The ISO is bloated. The whole distribution is bloated. And there's hardly any configuration you can do. Most of it's locked down. You can do hardly any configuration in Ubuntu. And I just don't think it's that great. I know a lot of people love it. Maybe I'm going to get hate messages from this, but it's not my cup of tea. I think Arch Linux wipes the socks off Ubuntu. So like I said, Ubuntu is the Windows of the Linux world. Anyways, please leave some comments, whether you agree or disagree with me. Leave your comments, just be nice. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. I am the Linux Mensch.